So again, thank you to everyone who joined us today. My name is Ala McCoy. I am Director of Startup Support at the University of Maryland's Ventures. And I am very excited to welcome to today's session Janice Burg-Levi, who is CEO of Intracoastal Marketing and Strategy Group. And Janice is also teaching marketing and communication at her local community college. So thank you so much for joining us today and talking to us about leveraging social media for marketing. It's such an important topic and fascinating, and lots of people try to figure it out, but it's so tough. So thank you for talking to us today. I'm going to turn off my mic and my screen, but I'm here in the background, so please keep asking questions. We hope this will be a fun and interactive session. So please take it away, Janice.
Thank you so much, Al. I am really excited about the opportunity to discuss today social media marketing, and recognizing the fact that a variety of you come from different backgrounds, different levels of interest. I thought that it would be, first of all, helpful for you to just get a little bit more about me. I was a graduate of the University of Maryland in the College of Journalism. I've had an amazing career in corporate marketing, on the agency side, doing nonprofit work. As Alice said, I have my own firm now called Intracoastal Marketing and Strategy Group. And we work on a variety of different types of projects, everything, including social media and collateral and websites and all of the areas that are so important to small and mid-sized businesses today. So what I'm going to do is really start with some of the basics here around social media. And so some of you may be familiar with this world, but let me just ground us in it. So social media, right? We talk about it, it's in the news, and everybody talks about how, whatever age you are, how we're just being bombarded by so much content. But basically, I thought it would be fun from a more academic way of approaching it initially is to just say, well, what is it? And it's really just the core definition is around websites and applications that enable users to create and share content and participate in social networking, obviously all virtually. So just for fun, there's a bunch of videos out there, but I thought this would be a good one. Hopefully this comes up. Here we go.
We don't see a video.
Not seeing it?
Nope.
Oh, thanks for letting me know.
Yeah, no, I thought you were bringing it up, but no,
Yeah, no, I don't know.
we
Okay.
see the slide.
You hear it? Okay. Can't hear it?
Nope.
All right, let's get it off. Sorry about that, everybody.
Yeah, no worries.
Cool. Always fun in college. Yeah. All right. So basically, when you get the slides, you will see that this is a basic overview of social media. And what the takeaway is, it's a very short video, but it talks about, if you go all the way back to 2004, people really didn't have the option of social media like we do today. And so reaching the right people at the right time is the theme of this presentation. And really that's what it talks about, is how this enables today, social media enables us to reach the right people. So social media marketing and your business. So why do you want to use it? There's lots of different marketing options in getting to the right people at the right time. But what's
Janice,
beautiful about social media is that there's a low cost of using it, and it's attractive. So as an entrepreneur, your services, your products can reach the best people, the right audience with the best message at the right time. And if
Janice,
your products or services are national or even global, social media can extend that reach really in a very cost efficient and cost effective way. So you're
Janice,
not wasting. In the old days, there used to be, if you spent a lot of money on, let's say, advertising, you were always had the potential of reaching people who you may or may not, want to reach or need to reach. Everything okay? Can they see my
just
screen?
wanted to let you know we don't see your slides now.
Oh boy. Okay. Not sure why. Let's see what happened. I think the video might have.
Yeah, if you want to reshare your slides, that would be great.
Yep. Let's see what we can do here. Uh,
Thank you.
Anytime we do something fancy here, this is what happens. Right? Here we go. Share screen. All right. Okay, so that's really this slide here on social media marketing in your business. Okay, so again, reaching the right people. Can you see my slide now?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. I'm not going to do any fancy videos anymore, guys. So social media, in terms of, you might hear the terminology owned, earned, or paid. What does that really mean? And fundamentally, you could probably figure out some of this. So owned is any media or channel you own. So let's say your business has a website or your storefront or your social media profiles. If you're talking about earned, this is where it gets really interesting in this world, because you start to get into a place where you get mentions on social media or blog posts. You also get into the world of sharing and liking, and hopefully from even a personal perspective, you'll see something out on social media that you really like, an article, a comment. And when you start to do that, you really build a following for you, perhaps, or for your business. And so the more that you can really be engaged on social media, the higher the probability that people are going to start to pay attention to what you have to say or what your business is about. And then that content starts to appear more and more on what they call these aggregators and syndicators. And then paid media is kind of the good old fashioned media, where essentially you're being paid, you're paying to promote your product or your service or your idea. And even on these social platforms, just as you would do in traditional media advertising, you can buy advertising. And oftentimes, if you go out to Google and you do a Google search, hopefully you've noticed at the very top of that search, you will see the difference between content that is paid for versus content that is posted. So usually, let's say the first few postings might be paid ads. And a lot of times what happens is people like me, maybe perhaps like you may skip and go to the ones that aren't paid, because you figure, you know what, maybe there's some more, I'll say, purity to it. But I will say this, when you do paid, you have a guarantee that you're going to get to the top of that page. And there's some other things, algorithms and things that also impact that, but the paid really helps you in terms of getting to the top. And what you want is to get that mind share and to get that attention. So getting started, excuse me for 1 second. So getting started with social media, we have a tendency, and I say collectively, and I know this from my students, that I think somebody raised a hand, I don't know. Yeah, slides will be shared. But social media, there's lots of choices. And I was just saying to Ala earlier, I mean, I just put down this visual, but there's so many different platforms that you can use in terms of social media. So how do you know which platforms are going to reach that audience? And how do you know that your message is going to be most relevant to that audience? So the first thing you really have to do, and this is really basic marketing, is pick the platform or platforms that are best in terms of who you're trying to reach, who's your target, and where will they be. So if you go out, for example, to a LinkedIn, which is a traditional business platform, what you will find is that, you're going to talk about business messages. You should be. It's not to say that people don't post other things out there, but fundamentally, that's the purpose of LinkedIn, is really more of a business angle. Twitter also is very popular around business topics, and so that's fine. Instagram, you start to get into a little bit more of the softer content. I'll give you an example. I have a client that's in the retail business, and she is interested in promoting her new line of clothing to a certain target. We use Instagram extensively with this business because it enables us to be able to engage with a consumer audience who is looking to buy new clothing. So essentially, that's where Instagram comes in. Snapchat, similar, more consumer, and Facebook, you guys are probably very familiar with. Again, softer types of information. So that's the critical path here. I didn't touch on many others. You'll see TikTok on this visual and many other platforms that you might be able to use. But I just wanted to give you an idea of, between digital and social media platforms, how many choices there are. The ones on the left are really probably some of the more common ones, and as well as TikTok, although there are some pluses and minuses about TikTok these days. So let's go to the next slide. So when we talk about, first of all, you decided on what the platform is. So let's say that you're more on the business side. So what you also want to do is you want to check out your competitor. And this is really marketing, what I call marketing 101. Every business has one. And I cannot tell you how many times when I've talked to startups, private equities, where they'll say, well, we don't have any competition. You probably do. Because what you need to do is think about, if there is a buyer or a potential buyer, they're putting their money into something right now, and they would divert those dollars, potentially for the use of or engagement with your business. So take a look at those that could be, to some extent, intersecting. So for example, I'll take a consumer example, a food store, right? A storefront for supermarket. Well, did they think that that some of these other online businesses would interfere with their business? Did they even have them in a line of sight? Well, suddenly you've got Amazon and others who were competing and taking that dollar maybe from that supermarket storefront, and it's now going to Amazon because you're ordering whatever, paper towels or whatever it is online. So think about who your competitor is, and then determine the type of content you want to create or reuse. Okay, so there's lots and lots of choices, but content, there's a phrase, it's content is king. And so when you look at content, think about videos. They're great and engaging. White papers, I don't mean 50-page academic pieces, but something that's short and sweet, maybe, that gives people a perspective on what you want to talk about in terms of your particular business, and get people to react to it. Blogs are great. A research report, an infographic. What's an infographic? An infographic you've probably seen, but it could be, let's say you have a survey and there's some interesting findings. You would create a one-page visual that would highlight the findings, but you would do it in a way that's very engaging, that would give the reader a takeaway, but very, very quickly. Slideshows are great as well. Imagery. Okay, so we are dealing with a world now that, what do they say? A picture is worth 1,000 words. So a beautiful image with a short caption. And I could go on and on. One of the things that I like to do is create short polls. And social media today, the LinkedIns, are so easy to create your own poll. And you've probably seen this, where someone will ask a simple question, what do you think of? And you might have 2 or 3 possible questions and answers. And then that stays out there for about a week or 10 days. And then you get findings from that. And then you start a dialogue around it. Do people agree with it? Look, the majority of people thought this. This is not at all what we might be used to in terms of a quantitative, heavy duty study. This is a qualitative, directional, interesting type of finding that gets people thinking and, by the way, engaging with your content. So now we go to, okay, step 3. Okay, so now I've got content, I've got, I figured out the platform or platforms that are right for me. Build connections with your friends and new friends. Do not be shy. This is not the time to say, oh, I don't want to bother people. You want to engage with other people's content that perhaps aligns to where you're trying to go. And you want to like, and you want to subscribe, and you really want to make sure that you're engaging. And oh, by the way, get new friends. Go out and see, are there other people talking about topics that align with what you are trying to portray and promote? So subscribe to these platforms, okay? And be thoughtful about where you want to engage. And I'm not saying by any means that you need to spend your life out on these platforms, but keep an eye. Things will pop up, interesting ideas, and it really is enriching. Comment, share those posts, as I said. Connect with the people you know and don't know. Connect with other people's connections. Wow, this is networking. Fabulous. So suddenly now you're meeting new people. You're creating a network of people that you suddenly have extended your circle. And then also thank people when they leave a comment. Okay, somebody took the time to make a comment, to like what you said, thank them, because that is the first step in engagement. So now you're on to how do you measure? So you're doing, right? Lots of doing, how do you measure? And I am a big, big supporter of measuring and learning. So how many follows? Did you get what we call fan growth? Are people starting to engage with what you're posting? Again, engagement of that target audience. Likes and reactions to your posts and your content, like we talked about earlier. Website traffic from your social, okay? Are you starting to see, if you have, assuming you have a website, are you starting to see people click and go out to your website? What does that look like? So it's a two-way street between your social and your web. And then valuable engagement. How do you measure it? So you'll hear these, these influencers, and they'll say, "Oh my gosh, we have 1 million people, or 2 million, or whatever it is." That's interesting, okay? And maybe if I'm a celebrity, it's ultra interesting. But if I'm in a business mode, I want to make sure that the people that are engaging with my content are the right buyer, the right influencers that can help me bring my business forward, that can help me achieve my sales, my revenue, or perhaps even just bring my ideas forward. So depending again on what your objective is, marketing 101, that's how I would measure. And that's really something that, as I've gotten more and more into social media, I've realized it's not just a game of numbers, it's the what's behind the numbers. Okay, so that's really social media. And honestly, could do an entire seminar just on measurement. And there's so much going on in this space. There's tons and tons of data. The question is, what is the right data? How do you start to look at it? And as this matures, this whole area of social media, I think we will see more and more around this space. But super important, don't just do for do's sake, do with a clear objective in mind. Who do you want to reach? What do you want to tell them? And what do you want them to do? Okay, so now we switch to the fun stuff here. So now I'm going to give you a couple of examples, and I want to take a breath here for 1 second, because how expensive? Okay. All right, I'm going to answer that question as we get, Margaret, I will answer that question, but let me keep going and I'll talk about it negative comments or deal with it. Okay, so let's talk about these and then we'll circle back. We've got that question. I think Alice capturing those. So here's one I really like. This one is interesting because this is, we all know, our favorite coffee place, right? Starbucks. So what Starbucks did in terms of their campaign, which was brilliant, was they piggybacked onto the popularity of an existing trend, okay, of diversity and sensitivity. And they're known for engaging in terms of out-of-the-box social media campaigns that really grab attention. So you can take a look at this campaign, but again, very interesting. So you see, they didn't just go out. Again, Starbucks has got a lot of people, probably not anywhere, your business probably doesn't have anywhere near the number. But the point I wanted to make about this particular post is that they took a trend. They took something that was going on that was top of mind in general, and they piggybacked, as we said, onto it. So think about what your business is and think about, is there a topic that maybe you can leapfrog on that you start to put your commentary? So what they did here is they posted great pictures of people from community. They introduced them. They had stories and highlights about these people. They used Instagram stories for their campaign. They had great imagery. So all of the things that we're talking about, and really took advantage of this social sentiment of people celebrating what was Pride Month. So they're talking about this and it kept the buzz going. But again, tying it back to the shot, the whole idea of Starbucks and the extra shot. So tying it back to hopefully driving more business for Starbucks, but also showing their social responsibility, what their brand stood for. So super, super powerful. And again, these are going to be in the deck, so you guys can spend more time with them. Okay, here's another one. Gillette, love this one. The best men can be. They try to break stereotypes about how men are supposed to be. Again, a societal topic, really interesting. Certain expectations from men and how they're supposed to act or think. And so they did a YouTube channel, again, another great channel. Keeping in mind this is more of a consumer product area, but they also used video on Twitter. They got thousands and thousands of likes and retweets, say that 3 times. And it was something that people could relate to. So the best social media campaigns, again, are those that manage to hit a nerve with that audience, again, the intended audience that you want to reach. And in this case, men, and they received the video where it was very well received because it helped to break these stereotypes. Again, see, here's another social topic. Interesting, but it really enhanced their brand in a way that kind of brought forward the message, but hopefully sold more product for them. So here's another one, and we'll get into HBR. So we all know Harvard Business Review, hopefully. And they followed a similar strategy during the crisis in terms of, people looking for more information, right? And in terms of COVID. And it was a great way, this campaign, to drive traffic from their social media account to their website. So remember earlier, I talked about the relationship between your website and your social media platforms. So what they wanted to do was attract new customers and get them accustomed to their platform. And once they join, the brand then encouraged them to get access to other resources and subscribe to their plans. This is like we all have participated in these free trial, so try us for 30 days. Thank you, Apple TV, and thank you, whatever, fill in the blank, Netflix. They're all doing this, try it for 30 days and then you forget. And the next thing you know, your credit card is being charged. And then you have to take action to really decide if you're going to retain or not. So you really replicate this for a product-based business, as well as giving freebies to attract customers and promote other products. But, so this goes both ways. There could be, if you have information content, or you have content that is just more informational that you're trying to portray. So, or if you have a book that you're trying to promote. Is there something that you can give away for free and enhance people to ultimately purchase your book, as an example? So this last one I love, and I think most of you know Shark Tank and Mark Cuban, as certainly as entrepreneurs, I know I've watched that program for years, and I think that Mark Cuban is brilliant in terms of what he does, as far as his marketing. But what was fascinating to me about this particular one is that he was using social media to literally launch his pharmacy business. So the question is, what do you think? Do you think that was a great way to do it? I personally think that because he had such a great following, he was really able to engage with this audience. And certainly it caught my attention. And I said, wow, if he's getting into this, there's something going on here. So you can take a look at this one as well. And then, and I mentioned this earlier, this whole social media survey. And as you can tell, I'm a big fan of this. So this is an example on LinkedIn on a very, very simple question. How much do rising gas prices affect your decision to work from the office? Beautiful question. Very topical. This is what people are thinking about. And so now this particular post, you could engage with people about, maybe you're talking about what's happening in the workplace. Maybe you have a book on it. Maybe you're publishing an article. Maybe there's a product that you want to sell in the workplace to make people feel, more comfortable. But the whole idea here is you are engaging them with this topic of home office versus going into a bigger office with lots of people. So I think that's another great example. So now we get into what I consider is the now what. And I'm going to stop for 1 second because I see that there are a lot of questions. And before I get into the now what, I'd love to engage with some people. So do you want to throw me some questions? How do you want to do this?
Yeah, sure. So I think we had the first question. Do you want to address the question on from Margaret first on how expensive is paid media and what do you recommend? That's a
Yeah. Well, that's a tricky question, Margaret, because I don't know your business. I don't know what you're trying to sell. So again, going back to what you're offering, what's your product, what's your service, and who do you want to reach? And so the cost of it really is, I hate to say this, but it depends. I'm happy to talk to you offline to better understand what you're selling or offering and who you're trying to reach. And then you can talk a little bit more about, LinkedIn pricing and what that would look like. There's also things that you can do within these, which we'll call paid, which on these platforms. And if you have a business address, oftentimes you'll get a note that'll say something like, do you want to boost this message? And you can do that. And they will say that if you boost it, you'll reach X number more people. And so there are some things you can do in terms of testing that. Okay, so I didn't directly answer your question from a consultative perspective, but the answer is it depends. And it can be highly effective. And also you have to look at how much you're willing to spend and what the price of your product would be. But certainly it's more than the free stuff that you're posting, but it does give you great positioning. And in terms of negative comments, I sort of laugh to myself when I see these ads out there where they'll say, oh, someone goes in for, to pitch a new piece of business and there's a negative comment about you or your business. It's a really tough one. If someone is berating you or someone is really continuously saying things that are negatively impacting your name, your business, you can on all platforms pretty much, you can report that. And there are LinkedIn, Facebook, most of the major ones have the ability for you to be able to say, this is a harassment or this is not a truth, and you can work directly with the platform provider. That's really, I would say, one of the main ways to do it. And then there's other things you can do just on your account to block them. But it is a tough thing. And I will tell you that any of the, what I would say, more credible platforms, they don't stand for that. If there is someone that is what I call the negative Nancy, right, or the negative Nate, they usually try to remove those people. But again, this is the world of social media, and it's this yin and yang of, you know, leveraging it and enjoying it, but at the same time having to deal with a little bit of what you would call the Wild West. And we could get into a lot of the political messages and things that go out there. And it's something that certainly all of these major providers have been in front of Congress talking about this as an issue, inciting riots or whatever else it is. So again, I'm happy to talk offline to better understand, you know, what that issue is. Any other
Yeah.
questions?
Yeah, we have a great question from one of our professors. He says, I've started a biotech company. There will be no product for 5 to 10 years, so there are no consumers I'm trying to reach. I'm interested in raising awareness of my company to venture capitalists and other investors. Other than listing my company on LinkedIn, is there any other social media approach that will help raise awareness to this niche target audience?
Yes, yes, great question. Been involved with these type of businesses. So the first thing you want to do, and I'll give you the example of one. I did some work for a company that was in composting. If you can believe it or not, industrial composting. And what they did, again, they wanted to attract investors. So the first thing is, remember what I talked about was content. So what I would recommend is, first of all, outlining, like, what is your story? What is your content? And what makes what you're doing in terms of biotech unique? Who are the people that are involved in it? And in this particular composting example, we ended up doing kind of a documentary that really talked about the background on it, what was happening, what made it unique. Some of the investors and an employee investor, I guess you would call them, had amazing backgrounds from corporations. One in particular was from Israel and had this experience. And so the documentary was created for a very targeted audience for investors. And then there was also a second piece that was created, a video that was more around targeting potential buyers. So it doesn't sound like you're at that stage yet, but all roads lead to that. Now, what do you do with that afterwards? Well, if it's a very specific audience that you want as your investors, social media, you could start to put what I would call an informational type of a piece out there, just getting people to pay attention. LinkedIn most likely is probably going to be your best platform because it is a very specific area and a niche, and it sounds very business oriented. But start to develop that content and think about your key message, your purpose, your strategy, your differentiation. And again, my contact information is going to be at the end of the presentation. I'm more than happy to talk to you offline, but that's how I would start, is really, who are you? What are you doing? Why are you different? And why do I care? And again, very, very targeted. Any other questions?
Yeah, we have one more, Janice.
Great. I
Thank
love
you.
these. These are great. This is fantastic. Yep.
Yeah, thank you for all the great questions. So, with a pollen question post like the gas prices question on LinkedIn, do you find that your given answers could prevent people from answering? For example, one option says, some I have adopted hybrid. What if my answer would be some, considering not going back in? I just wouldn't want to reduce the number of replies if there isn't a survey option for someone.
Yeah, you know, with this type of poll, the unfortunate part is, well, not unfortunate, but it's not really the type of polling that you would leave an open-ended, because it would be very difficult. This is a quick and dirty. But what you could do is, you'd have to think about how you phrase the question and the options. And if you see that there is not a lot of engagement with the choices that you picked, this is a freebie. So you know what? That survey may not have worked the way you phrased it. Now you can rethink how you might want to either rephrase the question or think about the answers and the options. It's not, again, there's a little bit of limitation here, because in a traditional survey, let's say you're doing a face-to-face survey, or maybe you're even sending somebody a direct mail survey. You probably have all participated in those. You could have an open-ended category called other, and they could literally write down whatever it is that they want to give you the other option. What else is there? This is a little more contained, so there's pluses and minuses about it. But that would be my suggestion. If you don't see a lot of engagement and people just don't, and I've had those, believe me, I throw them out, and certainly link in with me. I don't do it like every week, but I will if there's an interesting topic. Like I threw one out a couple of weeks ago, given everything that was happening in terms of the world and Ukraine, etc. From a business perspective, did people believe that the focus on ESG, environmental, social, and governance, was going to shift because that had been such a priority, specifically, let's say at a board level? Was that going to change? So because people were more concerned, okay, about what was going on in terms of the economy and the globe, etc. What was interesting, by the way, was that the finding was that people believed that ESG was still very much a top priority. So again, it's directional. As academics, perhaps, you sometimes want to do more of the quantitative. Remember, this is no absolutes. The whole goal here is get a buzz, get a conversation going. So great question.
Thank you. Thank you, Janice. I think we can go ahead, move on.
Yeah, that's a great, yeah, some people can put other, it's just, it's a difficult one because if you're looking at, just general findings, it's hard because you can't say, oh, in my recent whatever, if they put other, again, if they can put a narrative in there, but it's hard because then you want to just do a quick, here's what most people thought. You're welcome. You're welcome. So let's do this. Let's go. So now what? So on day one, don't try to push people to your new business. Oh my gosh, they're saying, well, what are you talking about? Ensure your website is firmly established. So to the question about the business that's not going to be launched for a while, get your message, get your website, get all your basics. Now's the time. It's a beautiful time to get all that right. Test it. Get out on social media. Start building your reputation organically by liking and sharing and commenting, and start building that brand reputation. Think about what kind of content you might be able to either reuse or create on your own, maybe at a low cost, to really start building that. Be relevant, okay? So that's really important. Whatever the topic is, as you saw with the examples that I gave you in social media, they were incredibly relevant for what was going on at the time, whether it was diversity, the role of men. I mean, look at what's going on, and I'm sure you guys are fully aware of just different topics in the world, within our own country, and figure out how, without getting too controversial, how you enhance that and use that to your advantage on whatever it is that you are trying to sell or influence, etc. I'm not going to try. I've learned already that these videos for whatever reason on Zoom aren't popping up, but they are going to be in this deck. And Neil Patel is a wonderful influencer in terms of marketing. And Neil has a video out there. There's lots of other ones as well, but it's how to get started with social media marketing. Thought that would be a really nice one for you guys to have access to. So I will not bring that up. And then that's kind of it. So questions, they're out here. You can reach me anytime. I live on social media and email, etc. And then additional training. University of Maryland is fantastic. I know I've participated not only as a presenter, but I've also benefited from the various programs that they have offered to us as alumni. And that's all we've got today. So I'll over to you.
Yeah, thank you so much. Thank you, Janet. This has been a fantastic overview, and I like your approach to this, how you presented the concepts and then examples, and then we had lots of great questions. So if anybody has any additional questions, if not, maybe I can throw a question. Oh, people are typing up questions. So, what do you think of TikTok as a social media platform? What type of businesses would benefit from it? What type of businesses should stay away from it? And is it even worth it?
It's really interesting. I do see that people are starting to look. TikTok has historically been, as you all know, kind of this outrageous, fun way of getting certain messages across. I have to tell you, the other day I was watching a program where it was a brother and a sister who the brother is autistic, and the way that they connected was through doing TikTok videos. And then they were able to really tell the story of autism and really help in terms of, donations and support, etc., and raising awareness about the topic at the same time bonding these siblings in a way that hadn't been possible up to now. And so I don't know if they were in their 20s, etc. So when I see TikTok used in that way, it warms my heart because I think that's a positive. I think some of the things on TikTok, you have to be careful, just like anything else on reputation, in how you use it, because there's some crazy stuff out there where, there's these competitions where, college kids or high school kids are doing these things that are just absolutely outrageous. But yet, I think that, like any medium, depending on what you have. Like if you have got an amazing product that you're trying to sell to a consumer, for example, I think TikTok could be extremely effective because you're able to demonstrate the product. You're able to do some things in an entertaining way that will really capture mind share. On the business side, I have to tell you, I have not used TikTok because I'm very cautious about how I might use it. On a retail, perhaps on a traditional biotech, I think that's a little bit of a heavy topic. So it really depends. It might work for a book, depending on the topic of the book. If we were on the academic side, it could. Maybe there's something, a key takeaway in the book that you could make it entertaining. But once again, it's the medium and the message. And I learned that from University of Maryland, College Park, Marshall McLuhan, who's I still quote as a teacher, professor in marketing, which is the medium is the message. And we didn't have social media back then, but choosing, if you remember nothing else, choosing the medium that matches your message is really critical. So look at social media as another way, an incremental way. Advertising hasn't gone away. Direct marketing hasn't gone away. Collateral development has, and all of these different choices in the marketing, what I call marketing mix, they're still out there. It's just knowing which levers to use to really achieve your objective. And that's where your business plan and your marketing plan are essential. What is your strategy? Don't leap into a tactic of which social media and the various platforms are. Instead, think about it with rigor about what you are trying to do. And again, measure, 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 and learn, which is perfect for this audience, right?
Yeah, no, absolutely. So we have another question. Is there a good method of testing your post marketing effectiveness? Are the embed codes? Are the platforms themselves good enough for testing engagement?
Great, great question. And I like that question, especially because you're testing and you're learning and you're improving because there's a constant circle. Yeah, there's a bunch of different ways you can do this. Sometimes what you can do is to test if it's a particular medium. You can do what I call the pre-test. Where are you today? What's your baseline, right? And then what impact did it have? You can look at it in terms of how many leads you got. You can get in terms of how many more followers you're getting. I have a national podcast, which I didn't mention on this call. It's called It's Great Business. It's available on every platform, and I'll use that as an example of how I was able to promote my business, Intracoastal, which is a sponsor of It's Great Business, which is the podcast. And when I measure whether or not I will continue to do the podcast, I look at how many people are engaging with my podcast. So I get statistics off of a platform called Buzzsprout that tells me how many people have looked at it, and how many people have downloaded. Does that answer? So that's one example. But you really need to look at each of the mediums, and then in totality, are you seeing lift? The other example of measurement is when we talked about website and social media working together. Are you really getting lift from that? And do you see, more engagement, and ultimately, if you're looking for sales, or in the case of the example that was given earlier, are you getting investors? Are you getting, like, are people, do they know your brand? Are they getting familiar with it so that when you go in and you talk to them, they say, oh, I've heard of it. Like for me now, after a year of podcasting, I have a guest who says, I listened to, the following, episodes, and I really liked what so-and-so said. To me, I go, oh, I have engagement. Because if I have a guest who's now listening to podcasts before they come on with me, whichever ones they choose, and they're quoting what that person said, I know that I'm making a difference. I know that I'm having impact and I'm achieving my objective.
Yeah, and David has a follow-up question. How do you distinguish organic boost in leads, sales engagements, versus how your marketing is doing? I guess the question is also maybe how do you distinguish between maybe all the other mixes, other marketing tools that you use?
Oh, you mean, so if you have a mix of marketing, how do you know what's working? Maybe that's the question.
Right, or just organic boost in leads. So
Well, you would, again, depends on what was there an offering, or was there a code, or was there something that was an indicator of that particular piece of content? Like if you have, for example, let's say you have a piece of collateral and you have, some sort of a link on there that if people are downloading from that link is only for whatever, you only posted on whatever it was you posted it on, you should have an indication of that. And again, if you have it on your website, depending on what you have set up in terms of your measures in your website, you could track that back. Sometimes it is more difficult, and even in an organic, it's one of those where, yeah, you're taking advantage of so much that's out there. When you get into paid, you can get a little more lasered in. I hope that answers, but certainly send me more, questions around that, because you really have to dig into exactly what is the message, and again, who are you trying to get to, and what were you doing? But there are ways of measuring, but be careful. Again, I have a tendency, and again, from an academic side, you can also go the other way. You can over measure and make yourself crazy. So be careful. You want to be thoughtful about understanding and learning from what you're doing and what's working, and put your time on the things that are working, obviously, and walk away from the things that aren't. But don't over index on trying to measure every nook and cranny, because you'll end up doing nothing but measuring. So there's a fine line between understanding and what's working, and also not over indexing. I mean, there's all kinds of things you can do, like in the old, I'd say the old days, but even now, it's called A/B testing. Okay, so any researcher knows about this, where you have two different groups and you're stimulating them in different ways, and then you see which one is responding. The same is true in terms of, whether you're in science or marketing, you can do similar, and you can really start to bring it out. But again, be careful where you are in your business. If you're just starting out, don't over index in it. Do enough to learn, but don't over research.
Yep, thank you, thank you. So we have one more question from Lina Castano. What are some options that people in the research and development industry can look into without having a finished product, to look for partnerships to bring funding to their development and bring their product to market? And I think it's very similar to earlier question about when we need to investors.
How do you get investors? How do you get investors? Yeah.
Yeah.
Clarity of
How do you
message.
get partners for R&D and things like that?
Yeah. Clarity of message, and a clarity of who the target is. Who are the likely people that would invest or partner with you, depending on what you want. So first, create that universe of your target. And then also, what's your message? And keep it simple. What are you working on? Why is it different? And why would it be relevant? Remember that word relevant to the people that you're reaching out to. Depending on the number of targets, I will tell you, there is nothing wrong with good old fashioned pick up the phone. So there's all this fancy stuff out there, but sometimes getting to the right person and having an intriguing message, and yes, they're gatekeepers, etc. But try to get to that person in a personal way. It could be as simple as, send them an email and ask for a brief conversation and put a hook in there. It could be an introduction through your networking on social media where you say to somebody, hey, I noticed that you are friends with, or so-and-so, because now you've got your target list. Would you introduce us? And so that introduction, it could be something, and then you go in there with maybe a nice little one pager. And you've got your, what I call your pitch platform there with your key points of what you're trying to do and what do you want from them. So that would be my suggestion. So this starts to get into overall marketing above and beyond social media. Remember, social media is one way to reach an audience. And in this particular case, that question, use it for your general branding, because it can give you some legitimacy. And again, in some content that you might want to put out there, or an interesting finding, or tie it to something that's topical. But again, there's nothing replaces that whole relationship marketing, which is very, very personal. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And that's been part of the problem, I think, for a lot of salespeople, by the way, during COVID. Although there's lots we can do on Zoom like we are, there's nothing like having a breakfast, lunch, dinner conversation. There's nothing like sitting in somebody's office and being able to really have a full conversation and interact in that way. That's just the way sales works, especially for new business sales and pitching a new idea and a new business. You need that opportunity to bring them in. Okay.
Yeah, thank you.
Are we good?
Yeah, I don't see any more questions. I think we've had a great presentation. Thank you so much, Janice, for spending
My pleasure. It was fun.
And thank you to those who attended the session and asked all the great questions. Very much appreciate that. As I mentioned at the beginning of the session, we will follow up with a PDF version of the slides, and also link to the video once it's done processing on our Startup PMD YouTube channel. And like Janice mentioned, I hope to see you at other workshops that we have planned for you. We have a great lineup in April and in May, so please check this link, and we hope to see you back at some of our other sessions, and hopefully, Janice, you might be able to join us as well.
Again, absolutely. And feel free to reach out to me. All the information is here in terms of my contact information. Say hi on LinkedIn or Facebook or whatever your favorite platform is. You will find me. And oh, please do check out It's Great Business. It will give you a lot of ideas. Each episode is about 20 minutes. And I've interviewed people from all over the world, academics, you name the topic, around career. It's all around career. Whether you're starting out, you're somewhere in the middle, or you're reinventing, and these people really have phenomenal perspectives. Having worked in some of the largest companies in my career, these are many of the people that I have interacted with over the years who have stepped up and are willing to share their learnings. So deans as well, lots of some academics, some people from Barcelona, from Amsterdam, so you will really enjoy it. You can just go through the list and pick and choose which ones you're interested in.
Yeah, thank you again. Thank you so much. We have lots of thank yous coming in as well through our comments, and
great.
Again, thank you.
Thank you so much. Wonderful. Thanks, everybody.